Newly surrendered documents indicate that the tax-subsidized United States Postal Service, USPS, has engaged in a widespread spying campaign targeting many Americans who advocate for the right to keep and bear arms and other conservatives and libertarians in general. But this isn't new, and seeing the larger pattern of government spying on people, then making false promises that it won't, and then continuing to do what it has already done, well, that is very educational. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Here's the story. The documents, visible thanks to a Freedom of Information Act request made by the Cato Institute and its senior fellow Patrick Eddington, indicate that the USPS has been monitoring people online. AMOLand offers a quick overview. Quote, the USPS Internet Covert Operations Program, ICOP, monitored the social media accounts of gun rights advocates from September 2020 through April 2021. The postal inspectors tracked the online activities of gun activists that attended Virginia Citizens Defense League's VCDL Lobby Day and protests over the killing of Breonna Taylor. Perhaps we've known for a while that Big Brother was watching us online, but it might surprise a few of us to discover that he also wears a USPS uniform. AMOLand continues, quote, the post office has no business devoting a cent of taxpayer money to monitoring groups involved in the political process, Eddington told AMOLand News. These officials who authorized or otherwise participated in this ICOP program, who are still on the federal payroll, should be fired and the program terminated. ICOP sounds like a perverse pancake breakfast chain. And how do the ICOP postal police know whom to watch? Are they tagging folks who receive pro-gun flyers in the physical mail, then exploring their social media? AMOLand spoke to VCDL President Philip Van Cleve, who observed, quote, this smacks of a politically based anti-gun agenda, Van Cleve told AMOLand News. If that's not the case, then the Postal Service is pretty inept if they think a VCDL rally needs to be monitored for any reason. If they had done even the tiniest amount of research, they would have realized that VCDL had a rally with over 50,000 people the year before with zero problems. And we left Richmond cleaner than it was before our rally. But even if there had been problems, that's a local and state issue. Gun Owners of America Senior Vice President Eric Pratt weighed in for AMOLand, saying in part, quote, prior to the Virginia Lobby Day in 2021, the U.S. Postal Service was tracking gun owners who, we now know, were 100% law-abiding and committed no crimes at the event. And this new USPS wrongdoing extends beyond the Virginia Citizens Defense League. AMOLand also notes, quote, the USPS program was not limited to just monitoring gun activists. The postal inspectors also monitored anti-Biden protests. They targeted Americans that attended the Million MAGA March and other pro-Trump rallies. And the USPS appears to be so disastrously obtuse that they actually claim that they're fully in the right. Reports the Washington Times, quote, asked about its surveillance of Americans, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service said its inspectors are federal law enforcement officers charged with protecting Postal Service employees, infrastructure, and customers. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service occasionally reviews publicly available information in order to assess potential safety or security threats to Postal Service employees, facilities, operations, and infrastructure, the agency said in a statement. So that's their get the feds into it rationale. A rationale that would allow the USPS to claim that it and other U.S. government agencies could engage in this activity against anyone, virtually anywhere. Because, of course, the USPS can claim that its employees are virtually everywhere in the U.S. It's pretty handy, isn't it? You know, this seemingly perennial pattern of Americans catching the government engaging in utterly unconstitutional and illegal activity, then many of them protesting, and then the bureaucrats continuing to do it while politicians embark on a fraud of supposedly addressing the problem with new legislation, or they have a president issue another authoritarian executive order to actually allow the feds to continue to do that offensive activity or the equivalent of it. Well, it's been going on for a long time. One of the most prominent examples of this jujitsu using public pushback to get where the politicians want and undermine the original public outcry, well, that appeared in the shadow of Watergate. After U.S. residents learned that the CIA, FBI, and NSA were engaged in warrantless spying on Martin Luther King Jr., anti-war advocates, and others who often were not accused of any criminal activity, the federal government, led by Senator Frank Church, a Democrat of Idaho, in 1975 held hearings about the multi-agency criminal spying. And then they leveraged the hearings to pass the leftist-created so-called cure called the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, a statute that literally made it legal for the feds to spy on foreigners and on Americans in contact with the foreigners and on Americans in contact with those Americans. In other words, the feds allowed themselves the legal opportunity to do the spying when it didn't exist before. This new revelation of the USPS snooping is actually another alarm bell that I hope people will hear and remember, because the list of federal wrongdoing is extremely long. It's a history of politicians leveraging public outrage to call for so-called reform and then literally institutionalizing permission for the transgressions. It's a history of U.S. bureaucrats continuing to engage in their immoral activity, often politically motivated to retain or expand power and harm innocent people, even as they tell us that they're protecting us. Protection racket, I think, is the term. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe. If this news alarms you, please share the videos with other folks. And, of course, join us on Rumble. When you're at Rumble, remember, they don't censor us there. If you'll hit the little plus, that helps move us up in the algorithms and gets our videos seen by more people. We'll also see you on Twitter. We'll see you on TikTok and Instagram. We'll see you in Facebook and, yes, on YouTube. Please check us out on YouTube. Yes, they give us hassle sometimes, and please like and subscribe there. Double check that you're subscribed. And of course, visit MRCTV.org, MRCTV.org to find out what the whole team is doing. I can be found on Gab at Gardner Goldsmith, and on Twitter I am at Gard Goldsmith. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.